everybody, it's Georgia Rose, and as you can see, I am not in the studio tonight. I'm actually in my home office doing the show. I had quite a day today running around, beat the clock, so I decided I wasn't going to use the extra half hour to go to the studio, but we have a fabulous show for you. Welcome to the Soul Space. This is my soul space where I do a lot of my work, so welcome. And I'm here every Monday night at 7 o'clock on Strong Island Television, on Zenkuda Soul Space on Facebook, and all your podcast networks, even on Channel 115 on Cablevision on Fridays at noon. So you can have lunch with Georgia Rose. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I see we have some people piling on. Tonight, I'm actually going to be doing a live reading. We had a contest a few months ago with a free reading. Anybody who shared the show, we put your name in a big basket. And lo and behold, Bobby actually was there the night that I pulled the name, and it was Aaron Bartles. So in a little while, we're going to invite Aaron on. Aaron is from Texas, and he's going to come on via remote, and we're actually going to look at his chart, and hopefully it'll help you guys understand your charts a little better and how to read your own chart. So if I could just get you guys to share the show, that would be absolutely fabulous. I'm actually doing that right now. So I'm going to share that on a few pages that I have and in my own feed. And I'm just going to say, hey, come on in the soul space. And before we get started on Aaron's chart tonight, if you guys have any questions about the energy or about what's going on, stick them in the comments and I will read those. But first, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the astrology that we have going on right now. It's going to be kind of a little bit of an irritating week. I hate to say that, but there's also some good stuff that's coming too. I have my special astrology book that I write everything in. Look, this is like what I do in my spare time, guys. How do you like that? So, so like I have spare time. Right? Oh, so funny. Okay, so let me find my page and my big book of tricks. Can't believe June went as fast as it did. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like June just went boom. So we had that new moon that came in last night. It was a new moon in Gemini. And like I said last week on the show, that was going to bring a lot of communication and a lot of fast moving things. That energy is actually going to stay with us for a couple of weeks because there were some aspects during that new moon that are really going to be triggered and stay with us. Mainly over the next few days, Neptune is playing a big part in the sky. So if you've been having really heavy sleep, or you've been dreaming a lot, or you've been having kind of daydreams even, or felt ungrounded and really kind of like prone to fantasy, that's because Neptune's really been in play. And Neptune is a planet that makes us dreamy. It's also a spiritual connective planet. So sometimes when Neptune energy is very heightened, we will find that we feel like we are able to connect easier and having some psychic things going on, or maybe we see more signs, or maybe, you know, on a typical day, we'll be looking up at the sky and all of a sudden today, when we look up at the sky, we see something that we never saw before, or we see something more meaningful. That's kind of Neptunian energy. We also have the summer solstice coming in this week. I believe that is actually on the 20th, which is tomorrow. So that's going to be a very potent day. You know, solstices, the autumn equinox, all of the times when we have light changing and the seasons being initiated, those are days when energy is heightened and we see a lot of juxtaposition, a lot of contrast, a lot of polarity and duality regarding light and dark. And so that's when those things really become more potent, especially this time, because a few hours after the solstice, we actually have the moon, who's going to be in the latter degrees of Cancer, being Cancer starts and initiates summer. That's actually going to be opposite of Pluto. And Pluto, as you all know, just went back retrograde into Capricorn, where it was for 15 years. So this energy and what the new moon is setting off and the solstice is setting off is an energy where we're going to repeat some things. We have a chance to go back to those themes that have been around the last 10, 15 years, especially regarding structures, and get a chance to kind of do them over, finally tighten them up, tie those bows we didn't get to tie around the beginning of this year. So know that this year and this for the rest of this year, and especially this week, we will have some power struggles and some things that invite power struggles. But the good news is, since they're repeats of things that have already been initiated, we really have a great chance to heal them, reconcile them, and look at them with a whole different perspective. So there's a lot of kind of complicated energy coming in, but it's for our own benefit, as always, and it will give us a chance for some really deep healing. as a matter of fact, because of some of the things that are going on with this solstice tomorrow, whenever in astrology we have a solstice or a beginning of a season that starts out with a temperament or an energy a certain way, we know as astrologers that that energy probably is going to be the identifying theme for the season. Kind of like, if you walk into a party, you always get the energy of the party and you just know that's the way the night's going to go, right? It's the theme. So that's how it is when we initialize the seasons. And right now in this initialization of summer this year, it's really Mercury comes in, and Mercury is playing around a little bit with Mars, which is the planet of our get up and go, our drive, our needs, our wants. It can make us aggressive or ambitious or assertive, right? Good or bad. And it's playing around with that energy, and also Chiron, which is the wounded healer, the planet that we sometimes, when I look at a chart and I see where the planet Chiron is for you, that shows me the kind of wounds that you brought into this world. So being that the sun initiated this energy in the sign of Cancer, which is a very healing energy, it's ruled by the moon, it's ruled by themes of mother, heart-spaced energy. I think I'm going to be dubbing this summer the summer of healing, because I think there's a lot of healing that's going to be going on for all of us this summer as we kind of are a little more introspective and we dive a little bit deeper into the things that we want to heal for, maybe things that have been coming up for a very long time. And that's also indicative of the fact that we have a lot of planets going retrograde. Venus is going to go retrograde this month. We've got Saturn in retrograde. We've got Pluto in retrograde. Of course, Mercury will do her stint over the summer of retrograde. But this Mars Chiron energy that initiates the summer and is going to be with us all summer long, and you'll hear me talk about it more in the soul space, is an energy that is, Mars is in Leo. So it's very, very expressive. It wants to be beating the drum. It wants to be walking in the parade. It wants to be flamboyant. It wants to show love. It also wants to, throw its pride and ego around. And Chiron right now in Aries is the teacher. It's something that has the propensity and the potential to take that energy of that Mars in Leo and really make us take action in our healing. So don't be surprised if you're an astrologer or a Reiki person or a reader or anything. You're going to be busy this summer because people are really going to want to delve into certain issues that they've been dealing with and going around and around for a long time. So between now and fall, now and the end of the year, it's time for us to finally heal those things that we keep putting a Band-Aid on and putting a Band-Aid on and putting a Band-Aid on. Come into your full potential. And I'll be here every step of the way to help you. But I do think this summer of healing is going to be very profound for a lot of us and bring joy and warmth and compassion to a lot of the places we need to heal, and healing in relationships with others. The nodes are going to be changing. We're going to talk about that a little bit with Aaron's chart in a few minutes. But the nodes of the moon are changing. For the last 18 months were in Scorpio and Taurus. Now the North Node is going to be in Aries. That's going to give us a lot of power. And the South Node goes into Libra, which gives us a lot of balance. So this is all about relationships for the next 18 months come July. So on Friday, we have Mercury making a half square to Jupiter. What does that mean? Well, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you want to really be careful with your words and also with your ears, because that's going to be those 3 days of maybe misinterpreting things. We won't hear them the right way. We'll misunderstand, and we will also be misunderstood and misguided. So really choose words carefully and really try and listen carefully, because those 3 days are going to pack a powerhouse of a lot of misunderstandings and unbalanced energy. But it also gives us an opportunity, if we're careful, for more deeper understanding. Because if we pay attention to what we're saying and what we're listening to, which we should be doing all the time, then we have a deeper understanding of ourselves and the other. So it's really a good thing when the universe gives us these little challenges and these little tweakings, because the way to use the energy the right way is to step into it and make it more introspective and more of a focus for us, so that we become really stepping into our full potential as listeners and speakers. And that's where I'm going to end my little spiel about the current energy. I'm going to check our comments before I go into Aaron's reading. Just putting these here. Who have I got on? Sarah. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Colleen. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Kathy. How are you doing, Kathy? I'd love to have you on the show and do a reading and you talk about your book. Liz is on. Liz is from Florida. Kim Murray. Got some people on. And don't forget, even if you missed the show tonight, you can always share it and let people know that we also put it on YouTube on the Zenkuda channel, so you can listen to it all the time. That's especially good for Aaron tonight because he can hear his reading again and again because it'll be recorded. So the other thing that I was going to tell you guys is Saturday is a quiet day. It's a creative day. So if you have anything to do with drawing or sketching or art or writing something, or you're looking to do a project, Saturday is your best day for that this week, the 24th. We've got the moon trining Uranus. So even though it's a quiet day, it can bring about like aha moments and creativity. And that's, I'm just looking at my notes a minute. Yeah. So again, the energy of this new moon, I said it on the video that I have up on my social media. The energy of this new moon is really one of a trickster type energy. The moon was right in Gemini, led by Mercury. This is an energy that's going to stay with us for a while. And it's like we can really misinterpret things, especially with Neptune up there, really, really prominent right now. We can misinterpret things, but we can also misinterpret our own thoughts. Like we may have something that's a dream or a fantasy and think it's like really great to do. So kind of check yourself before you wreck yourself. But one of my favorite expressions from the 90s. But what I will say is that energy that I was just talking about now, where it's almost like an AI type of energy, like, is it true or not? You know, is this real or not? Is this something I want to pursue, or am I like way out in left field here? And it's going to be really hard to know. But by the same token, that energy can be used for good and can be used in a really positive way. Because if you think about it, if Neptune is heightening our fantastical ideas and heightening our dreams, well, isn't that where all creativity comes from? I mean, every great idea we ever had as humans started with a fantasy or a dream. So Neptune highlighting those things in this energy gives us the opportunity to really, really harness some great stuff. Just make sure you don't go too far. All right. And that's about it for the energy of the week. If you have any questions about the energy of the week, just put your questions in the comments. I'm going to send up some hearts to all my beautiful Zenkuda community that's here. And if you haven't already, please, please, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I am going to bring in my guest, Aaron Bartels. I'm really excited. Aaron has been so supportive of my work for a couple of years now. I could not even tell you how he found me. Maybe he remembers. I don't know. But he's just been such a sweet energy, even though I've never met him in person. So if we could bring in Aaron, Bobby, that'd be great. Here he is. Yay. Everybody send up some hearts and smiley faces and everything for Aaron.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Georgia.
How are you? I don't remember how we first met. Do you remember?
You know, it was, I do remember it was someone
Oh,
sent me something through Facebook, and then I stumbled upon the show, or I stumbled upon the show when it was actually at a different studio.
yes. Yes. I used to be at
Yep.
a different studio here on Long Island. Yes.
Yep. And then we did have a reading once before,
I know.
remember?
You came to me privately and we did a private reading for you. I hope you
Yep.
enjoyed that.
Yep. And then, yeah, and that's just kind of how it got started. And I
The
usually
power of the
every
internet. See, social media can be for a good thing. So I am going to pick a card and then I'm going to go into your chart, Aaron. And the reason why I wanted to do this contest and pull someone from the audience that for a free reading online is because I really wanted to give you guys an idea of what I do in a reading and how readings work and things like that. So I have a way that I usually do readings, of course, and prepare for a chart reading. But also one of the things I do is once I'm in the energy with somebody, I never know what's going to happen. You know, I let spirit kind of use me as a vessel and just direct me. And spirit is just telling me to pick a card for a theme of the reading tonight. So I'm shuffling my cards, as you can see right now. And we're just going to pick a card to see if it resonates in any way with anybody, right? Okay. If you want to just take a deep breath, Aaron, that would be wonderful.
you could already tell. And the funny thing is, I think tarot cards have been in my life since I was maybe 11.
Oh, yeah. I believe that. I just from our interchanges, I can tell your energy is extremely spiritual. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to harness that because I saw some things in your chart as well. Okay. So the card that we pulled tonight was the Knight of Wands. So to me, Aaron, this is you. All right. So this was like a really appropriate card to pick because the Knight of Wands to me is usually a fire sign, young male, but you have a lot of planets in Aries.
Yep.
So this is really showing me that you're in the right place and just confirmation that we really were supposed to pick you and that we really were supposed to do your reading this evening. So if you look at this, you've got all this fiery energy and the knight is on a horse. He's charging. He's horse's feet are up in the air. He's ready to go, right? And that's such Aries energy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Bobby to pull up your chart if we can on the screen. There you go. So this is how I do a birth chart. And it might look a little different from some of your charts that you guys look at when you go onto, astro.com or cafeastrology.com, because I obviously have pay for a larger membership than most people do. But also, being that I've studied astrology for the past 12 years, I put in a lot of things and aspects that you guys probably aren't going to be using. So if this looks a little confusing to you, I apologize for that, but this is just the way I read. And I wanted to be able to show you all so that you all know that when you get a reading with me, it's not just your average run-of-the-mill, like sun, moon, rising sign thing that, some people do. I go pretty in depth. I am an evolutionary astrologer, and EA astrology means that I read for the evolution of your soul. So if you come to me for a reading, you might hear, hey, you're going to buy a red car, but that's really not the purpose of the reading. The purpose of the reading is to really put you on your soul path and give you advice and moments where you really know where you're going to have to go and proceed in the future. So the first thing that jumps out at me in Aaron's chart is, if you can look and see where the little sun icon is, it's by where you see Gemini, which is at the top of the chart. If you look on the inside circle of the chart, everyone, you'll see numbers. And those numbers are significators of the houses. We have 12 houses in every astrology chart. And if you look at where the sun is, which is the circle in the, like a smaller circle surrounded by a larger circle. And in the chart, it's very much in the 9th house in Aaron's chart. So his sun is in the 9th house in Gemini at 0 degrees. So when I see a sun or any planet at 0 degrees of a sign, that tells me that the energy of that sign is being initiated in this lifetime, meaning it's being started. The planet, the sun, which is our life force, is actually going into Gemini and has never experienced this energy before in any other lifetime. So what does that mean for Aaron? It means that as a Gemini sun, he's going to really try to embody a lot of what Gemini means. But coming from Taurus, the last degrees of Taurus, and just going into Gemini at his birth means that he's also going to exhibit some Taurus significators and some Taurus themes, because he's not quite into Gemini yet, right? And maybe his life path as his sun progresses is that he's going to learn a little bit more about the Gemini way of living. But maybe as a baby, he came in and maybe was a little bit stubborn or something, because he still had a lot of Taurus in him, because he just made the egress into that sign.
I don't think that ended up being a baby.
There you go. So you will evolve, and as you get older, you'll take on more of the Gemini traits, because you're at 0 degree of the sign. You're just getting there. It's like a baby who's just learning how to do something for the first time. You're a baby Gemini. So the other thing that's really interesting is this is a 9th house placement, but again, brand new to that 9th house. So that sun in the 9th house, Aaron, 9th house usually is a house of international travel. It is foreign people, like maybe you have the screen or what. Yeah, great. Thank you, Bobby. So you might have a person in your life that is foreign born, or you're attracted to foreign travel. But the 9th house is a lot about foreign, things foreign to you. So if you have an affinity, or you like to look at travel channels or dream about traveling, that's something that your soul really wants to do in this lifetime, is foreign travel. Maybe learn a foreign language, something like that. You may even find a partner who is, of a different culture or from a foreign land. That will be a very prominent theme going in your life as you progress. But since the 9th house is also foreign travel, foreign things, it's also got a theme of higher learning. And just in my brief knowing you, I know a lot of times you aspire, you train for things, you take classes, you're very into the metaphysical, you like to develop your mind. So higher learning is also going to be a really big theme for you as you live. And your sun, which is your life force, wants to do those things. It's thriving on those things. Being a Gemini, especially because Gemini is ruled by the mind. So that's really going to be themes in your life. So remember, anytime you get the itch to do something new, make sure it's really resonating with your soul. You're not just doing it to be of the mind. You want it to kind of meld. The next thing that really makes sense for me. Any questions about that?
No, it actually makes sense, and it leads me to a question, but I can wait.
No, ask it now.
Um,
It's okay.
I'm actually looking at going. I'm haven't officially started it yet, but I'm probably going to go back to school for a master's degree
Hmm.
in the next few months.
And that would fit
Just
in
haven't
really
announced
well.
it.
That would fit in really well with this kind of theme, because especially Gemini right now, and we just had, like, some egresses, and Mercury was actually spinning through Gemini. So you probably found yourself very your thinking was probably very clear the last couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Like, you were probably like, wow, I'm really killing it. I'm crushing it with my mental capacity. Because that's, the Mercury, when Mercury transits Gemini, that's when, if you see Mercury coming up into Gemini, and Mercury usually does that about every year or so, like, that's the time to plan anything that's going to take a lot of focus for you, because you probably find it hard to focus at times. And when Mercury is in Gemini, you're going to feel better about focusing.
Yeah, especially, well, I would say that the last month it has been really clear.
Yeah.
Really focused, really great results in a lot of areas.
Yep.
Today I was a little spacey, but I think that was
That's Neptune
Neptune.
coming in. Yeah, we all felt spacey today. Everybody was spacey today. But watch I know you follow astrology a little bit. Just whenever you hear Gemini's going into Mercury's going into Gemini, that's when you're going to be like, or look at the chart for like the year to come and say, that's when I'm going to like really do this project, or that's when I'm going to write this thing, or that's when I'm going to like really make sure I have a project at work that I'm going to do during that time, because you'll have such success at it.
Okay.
So the next thing that jumps out at me is your moon. And as you know, you have an Aries moon.
Yeah, I do.
And
Which means
so,
I got a temper.
yeah. So,
Uh,
but there's a few things with your moon and Aries that I wanted to go over with you, because really interesting stuff. One of the things that I'm going to tell you is that your Aries moon, like, I know we talked a little bit the other day, and you mentioned a stellium in Capricorn. For those of you watching, if you look down to the bottom part of the chart, I'm sorry, the not the bottom part of the chart. If you look at, look at the bottom part of the chart, you'll see Aaron also has like 3 planets in the 4th house, right? Yeah. And I'll look at my chart again. Yeah, the 4th house, which is Capricorn. But you also have a stellium in Aries.
oh wow, I
So
did not know that.
yeah, in
I mean,
Aries, yeah, it's almost like a cross stellium, because you've got Mercury in let me just look. Yeah, Mercury is actually in Taurus, but it's still in your 8th house. So it's very close to this other thing. But in Aries, you have your moon, you've got
Venus.
Venus, which, is really quite a conjunction. And then you've got some asteroids, Eros and Vesta. So your Aryan energy gets ignited a lot. But what I'm going to tell you is that moon, and I wrote it down, the moon in Aries, I was just doing that before we got on, is conjunct Venus. So I know that Aryan energy can make you very angry at times, or, snapping off. But I want to tell you, I think part of your maturity and part of your life course and life lesson is that moon conjuncting Venus in Aries. An Aries Venus is someone who is extremely passionate. Like, that's like in relationship, you are a very passionate person. You're passionate about everything you do. If you set a
Mhm.
goal and you want to go to the gym, that's your passion project. If you have something that really ignites you at work, you have an extreme amount of passion in your life for things that you really like to do. So one of the pieces of advice that I will give you is, stay away from things that don't give you joy, and stay away from things, unless you have to do it, like we all have to take out the garbage. But you are going to become so bored so easily if your passions are not ignited,
Yep.
because you've got more passion than the average person, and you can use that to good use. But as much as you like to be, the horns coming out of your head, and like, I will say that a moon conjunct Venus is one of the most loving, caring energies. The fact that you have it in Aries is almost like, although you can be a hothead, you're also so fiercely protective. And when you love fiercely. And that's why themes of betrayal or themes of, if something isn't reciprocated, that's why you get hot under the collar, because you give so much and you're so passionate. So I'm hoping that just kind of identifying that about yourself will make you realize that instead of, if there's an inequity in a relationship where someone isn't giving their all or as passionate about things as you, realize that not everyone's going to be like you, because you have an extraordinary amount of passion.
Yep.
And so, maybe cut people a little slack, and, maybe even temper yourself a little bit and put your energy where it's really warranted. And the flip side of that coin is when you feel yourself getting angry or fierce in battle, same question, is this really worth it? Right? Is this the hill I want to die on? Is this really, what am I fighting for here? It's the same thing with the passionate part of it. That's love, right? The part that's not anger is this person worthy of all this passion? So thinking about how you utilize that energy of Mars and the moon, rather, which is our emotions. The moon is also the mother, right? So with a Venus moon conjunction, you probably had very close relationships with female energies in your family. You probably are very protective of them. Even though you're a male, you're very mothering. We all have that masculine, feminine. You're very much that type of person. So, but I think what happens oftentimes is that you get motivated in the opposite direction. And people don't get to see all that beautiful side of you, that loving, that caring, that protective side. So I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
It does. And
Yeah.
I didn't think, well, I knew that my moon and my Venus were in Aries, but I didn't think about them. I don't know why I just never looked at it like a conjunction. So
Yeah, and I think
that's
that that's
interesting.
really divinely placed, because if your moon was in Aries with like Mercury is very close there too, even though it's in Taurus, it's very close to the planets. And you've also got what else was in there? You've got Venus and the moon, and you've got the planet Vesta. Vesta is the Vestal Virgin. Vesta is feminine energy. Vesta is the energy of that protection. But it's also an energy that's like extreme. It's like the story of the Vestal Virgins in Roman time was they kept the fires burning. And if any of them strayed and did not remain a virgin, the fires went out.
Oh,
So
wow.
life forces went out. So it's like so extreme, like the tolerance level of anything that's not the norm or conformity, So the fact that you have Venus there tempers all of that extreme energy and gives you the potential to be so amazingly loving. And I equate that energy to, I identify very strongly with Joan of Arc. And if you think about Joan of Arc, when people think of her, they think of this like really strong woman, this strong female energy, and she's riding into battle and she's going to take no prisoners and she's a crusader, right? But think about who Joan really was. She was a 16-year-old girl who had so much love for her people that she was willing to die for them. So it's really like the passion is twofold, right? Light and dark. We are in control of how much we turn on which spigot, right? So my advice to you would be show a little more of that softer, nurturing side. Don't come in so much as like, the Knight of Wands card that we chose, where you're like, I don't know where I put it now. I mean, I put it back in the deck.
Take no prisoners. Yeah.
Don't come in with the horn, right? So, because I think that if I'm not mistaken, you probably have had some issues in groups and getting along with groups, right? I think you make friends very easily because, by the way, a Venus conjunct moon aspect makes you extremely attractive to people. So you got that going for you. But I'll bet you've had kind of conflicts and some sticking points with groups and joining communities and groups.
Yeah, I think that and that's kind of two-sided, right? I have that temper. I have that when you and the older I get, I want to say it's a little more
you have a little more
when
patience.
a little more patience, but also when I was younger, I might get mad or really upset about it. Now I like I have to tone it down because like now I'm like, you know what, you're walking in the danger zone, like
Right. Well, you're
like
learning. And that's exactly the lessons you came into this life to learn. So you're following your path. And, like I always tell so many of my clients, you don't have to master that lesson in a day. What you have to
yeah.
do is show up for it. And you're showing up for it because you're conscious of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're doing the work.
And the other thing that's really crazy is like I do have so much Aries, but my mother is actually the reverse of me. So if you looked at my mother's astrology, she's an Aries sun with a Gemini moon.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I think her Venus is Gemini. So it's like
Wow.
we were like exact opposites in a weird way.
Well, that
So I
happens a
always
lot
found
in
that interesting.
families. Yeah, that actually happens a lot in families. And I'm actually taking a very in-depth course now on the karma of families being the astrology charts. And I'm doing a lot of test cases. And it's amazing what I can find out with family karma and how families get along and the lessons that they're teaching each other. It's like so amazing. And when you have a child, right? Whatever, everyone has a sun, moon, and rising sign, father and mother. If your children does not have any of those signs that you both parent have, they're not your kid.
Oh
And
wow.
you can test it on everyone in your family. Like I'm a Libra, Scorpio, Sag. My mother was a Libra rising. My father was a Scorpio moon. They also had other things in the same place in the chart that I have. Every one of my brothers and sisters will have some aspect of that energy in their chart. So like if your mom, maybe it's the Gemini that's carrying the line because you have Gemini, your mom has Gemini. If you look at her mother's chart or her father's chart, if you can find the time of birth, you'll see how the karma goes. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So the other thing I wanted to say to you, and the reason why I brought up about the groups is because as part of this lesson of that moon and that Aries energy and that sun that you have and that beautiful ability you have to love, where this lesson is going to play out for you is in your groups and your community. And the reason for that, Aaron, is your south node of the moon is in Leo in the
Leo.
11th house. So Leo is an energy of, you want to be the star. When you were younger, maybe a little bit still now, maybe not as much, but I'll bet you were somebody who was like shock value, like rebellious just to be rebellious, or you'd walk in a room and you wanted to say something that was going to shock everybody or wear something that was going to shock people. You just had that kind of shock value because you wanted to be seen. So that south node in Leo is the life lesson of the opposite, which is the north node in Aquarius. And what that lesson is about not being selfish. It's about selflessness. It's about community. It's about doing what's good for the whole instead of what's good for you. And those will be themes that keep coming up in your life lessons. And that's why this sun in Gemini and the moon conjunct Venus in Aries, that energy is all going to play out with that Leo Aquarius axis. And Aquarius is an energy that wants to be part of a community, and it wants to be part of a community very badly. So then the lesson and the theme for you becomes communication. And in your chart, you have Mercury squaring those nodes that give you the lesson of getting along in groups or working in a community or having a hard time with that. Mercury squaring the nodes is our mind. It's our communication. And so you probably have a hard time being understood. You probably have a hard time sometimes communicating what you really want to feel because sometimes you come in as the tough guy. And that's really counterproductive to what you really want. What you really want is that love that you desire and someone to really reciprocate that softer side of you, but you don't trust enough to do that.
No.
And it comes off sometimes as being intimidating, or maybe even in a work setting, like you don't look like part of the group, even though that's really what your intention is, So one of the things that you have to work on, your other life lesson besides, what am I fighting for? Is this person really worth my passion? Good or bad, love or anger. The other question is you need to work on the communication and find ways where your communication, your words, the way that you act really embodies what you authentically want to portray and be and do in the life that you're living. Because you have the ability to do that. You probably have done it, but you don't trust enough a lot of the time to allow yourself to really authentically come through. So what do you think about that? I know you're very quiet.
No, I mean I'm listening. Sorry. It's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, and so that Mercury square, the North Node, also, um, like I know you asked a question when we were messaging about Murphy's Law. Well, when we don't embrace the lesson of the Mercury squaring the nodes and the lessons of the nodes, we're going to learn by hardship. That's the problem. We learn by hardship, and the Earth, the universe will keep like tweaking you and tweaking you and tweaking you because it wants to keep testing you. Has he gotten it yet? Has he harnessed this yet? Is he going to trust somebody, or is he going to not flip off? Is he going to be loving? Is he going to be really who Aaron is? So they're going to keep tweaking you. And so a lot of times you'll learn by hardship, and you're extremely intelligent. Where Mercury is in your chart, extremely intelligent. If you want to get your master's degree, it's going to be a slam dunk for you. You have no problem doing anything higher learning. But that intelligence doesn't always come across because of the communication issues that you have. So you want to really maybe think before you choose your words carefully sometimes. And, be careful of how you come across to others. I know that was one of my life lessons where sometimes I talk very fast and I do things very fast. And so sometimes I didn't always stop to think about how I came across to others. I was only thinking about what I was doing, and that was a lesson that I had to learn in my life was, wait a second, maybe somebody took that a little differently than I meant it, because maybe I was a little abrupt with them, So I can be harsh because sometimes I just want things done.
Yep.
So just temper your words a little bit. And so here's the good news for you. You have an asteroid which is called Juno. And I always put Juno in my readings because Juno is the asteroid that signifies partnerships. It's called the marriage asteroid. And so you have Juno conjunct Pluto. Now, a lot of people would think that was a bad thing, but it's not. It's a good thing.
Sounds like
Pluto
a nightmare.
is also power. Yeah. Pluto is power and Pluto is transformation. Now, granted, sometimes it does it in a harsh way, but with Juno there and the way it's going to come into relationships for you is that when you finally meet the partner that's right for you, it's going to be a lifelong partner. You may have had a lot of false starts, or you may have had something that was temporary, back again or whatever. But just know that when you really meet the one, this is going to be someone that you're deeply attracted to. And it's also going to be a power couple. When you finally meet the person that's right for you, it's going to be someone that you feel can raise your status and vice versa. So when looking for a partner, don't look down, look up. Because your chart shows that your overall lifetime partnership will be a power couple with somebody. You definitely will step into that. This will be also an energy of deep attraction, likely to last a lifetime. Someone you see is really raising you up. But the downside of that energy, because it's Pluto, is you can get obsessive about that person. So temper yourself, because in relationship, especially with that Aries combination, the Venus, the moon there, and the Juno and Pluto together, this can make for, you get a little obsessive about people. You get a little bit like, hey, what are you doing now? You're a detective, So,
yeah. And especially I think that's Aries too, right? Like when you have an Aries and Venus, when you love really hard, and that's
that Joan of Arc. I call it the Joan of Arc combo. You're running into battle. It's like you have superhero powers when it comes to love.
It's actually funny. I'm on the end of a relationship that's kind of been over for like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And right now, instead of jumping, this is very not my energy usually. Instead of jumping into another relationship, or I'm like, for some reason, I think maybe September, October. But right now, I'm like, I have to fix the mess that the last couple of years created, or not really created, maybe in a way destroyed, right? Like all of those structures crumbled.
Right. The things you didn't focus on, you got to focus on now.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're following your path, because I was going to tell you that, because you also came off when Saturn was in Capricorn, you had your Saturn return.
Yep.
So that's when you learned a lot of harsh lessons. All right. Now you've got Pluto going back there. Your Saturn, it's so funny because our Saturns are almost in the same exact place, which is why I think we're teaching each other in life, right? I've learned things from you too. And your Saturn there at the end of Capricorn is now going to get that Pluto on it again. So this is the time you get to wrap up all the themes, everything that's been going on for umpteen years. Now you wrap it all up and you're really going to have a lot of growth. So that's huge for you. The other huge thing for you also, Aaron, is the nodes of the moon change in July and the nodes of the moon travel backwards. So the nodes have been in Taurus and Scorpio. They're going to go into Aries, Libra. The North node is going to transit all of your Aries planets. So that's your destiny. That's energy of, yeah, that's your energy of allowing you to really step into your full potential. So follow your intuition. Don't go back to bad habits. Because if you go back to bad habits, all that Aryan energy that we just talked about, it's going to smack you in the face.
Yep.
So be mature, wait for the right partner, focus on the school or the job or whatever, and use those places as a classroom to really expand your communication, because those are your life lessons. And, that's really the reading. I also wanted to tell you that you are a 10th house Cancer. So, and you've got Chiron there with Jupiter.
Yep.
So whatever you decide to do for a living will be healing, either for you or other people. I know you kind of work in the health field. You might want to expand on that, because with that energy there, you definitely have a propensity to be some kind of a healing energy in wherever you work, even if it's not, classically healing hospital thing like that. Wherever you work, you have the capacity, if you work on your communication skills, to really provide a healing atmosphere for people and a loving atmosphere. So your 10th house is a sign where you're not going to be happy, pushing papers. You want to be really making a difference with some things that you do. All right. And because you're Cancer in that 10th house, which is career, you also have a tendency, if someone pisses you off, you don't want to do anything. You're going to go in the shell. That's going to be your undoing. You have to learn to stand your ground in a really healthy way and communicate so that you go forward. Remember, when you go back in your shell, you're going backwards.
Yep.
So go forward, because that's going to be a theme with you. You're going to be easily wounded sometimes in jobs, because you give a lot and sometimes it doesn't get recognized. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to give you questions, let you do questions. Mars is on your descendant. Okay, right on your descendant, which technically means it's opposite your ascendant. Mars on the descendant means that you have what they call a setting Mars. And that's actually a good thing, because with all that Aryan energy, you don't want to be too, Mars rules Aries. So you don't want to be too, so, and it's in Pisces right now. So you've got Mars is in Pisces on your,
Yep, Mars is in Pisces.
Yeah, Mars is in Pisces for you. So, Saturn is in Neptune rather is in Pisces right now. So that's why that Mars energy has been like, if you felt a change recently, it's because Neptune is kind of passing over your Mars. So when Neptune does that, it's going to kind of make it softer. You don't feel so like the Incredible Hulk, So use that. So use that time period to allow your Mars to be more mature and develop that and make those habits instead of the reaction, more the response that you really want to do from that loving side of you, that beautiful, moon in Aries that can be so fiercely loving. So, just remember that, like that Mars on the descendant also makes you very attractive. It gives you a fighting and competitive spirit, though. So you're going to also sometimes, fight for your right to believe with the way you believe. That's very big with you. Even if it's not the norm or that you don't conform, you want to have your right to be what you are, and that's very, very commendable. And also, you see that in others. Like you're very much, you're very tolerant of others with a Mars there. Because that Pisces energy makes you open-minded, and it's like the infinity sign. You can expand to do whatever you really want to do and use the Mars for that. How beautiful is that, right? So like I always say, especially with spiritual devotion, if you were mentioning tarot before, with a Mars placement where you have it, especially in Pisces, that's going to give you the assertion to be able to learn those things very easily. And as a result of that, you can use that energy to really connect. And it's almost like you've got, I always say Mars is the gas in the car. In Pisces, it's like the gas in the spaceship, because you can really go into like the outer bounds, and that that energy that we were talking about before of that higher learning and the sun in the ninth house, which is foreign travel. To me, with your Mars in Pisces, it kind of makes me think if you really become very devoted to certain spiritual practices, you probably can meditate, go into other realms, and astral travel very easily. So
It's very funny because I remember when I first started meditating, and I think you'll probably be the only person that will laugh at this.
yeah,
But I had to have one of my friends like, come meditate, come try this. And I'm like, that doesn't happen for you? Like,
right. You know,
like
once
it's
you
a
with
total
your
different
place, yeah, with
experience
your
with me.
placement there, you definitely. I mean, it's a shame if you don't pursue a regular meditation practice. It's really a shame if you don't pursue that, because you have the power. Like even shamanic journeying. I have a very good friend who does that every day. Consistent practice like that, you are going to have such an amazing intuition, Aaron. Abundance will be yours with whatever you want to really manifest.
Thank you.
You just need the discipline to do it.
Yep.
So
And just
questions for
make
me,
the
because I know
time.
we're running out of time.
Oh wow, that was quick.
And you
Yeah,
have
so
it videotaped, so you can go back to it. And a lot of times when I do also get readings from people, because sometimes it's hard to read ourselves, and I get readings from some very prominent astrologers all over the world, and I always save the videos, because sometimes even like 3 years later I'll listen to them and I'm like, oh, I didn't get that part before. So it's really cool stuff.
yep. And this is like memorialized, right? I can always go
Yeah,
back to the show, and so this is
yeah,
cool. Uh, I guess I was more the questions that I would have would be like about the transits and the things that are
yes.
coming up, because
Mm-hmm.
I know like I had a little bit of fear, but like with this, I think the Saturn was going to square my sun. But the
Yep.
funny thing is I think that I get hit with energy like that like 6 months before it actually happens. Like I get it
And that
ahead of
happens to a lot
time.
of people. Yeah, that happens to a lot of people, especially like me. Like new moons affect me worse than full moons, and I always feel them like a few days before. And I think what happens, especially with Saturn is a very slow moving planet, so you will feel it a long time before, because it moves so slowly. And then when you actually have the exact transit, it takes a long time for that to pass. Just for our audience listening, planets that square each other are like this. It's a 90
Harsh.
degree. So planets that square each other, when the planets are always moving. So when you have a transit that squares, the planets are blind to each other. That's why it's a conversation of tension between the planets. They can't see each other, so they can't communicate. So like Aaron is saying, Saturn will square his sun because he's a Pisces. Saturn is transiting Pisces and his sun is in Gemini. They square. Those are signs that square. So when that happens, Saturn and his sun will not be able to communicate well. And Saturn is our lessons. Saturn is the planet that restricts things in our life. So you may feel very tired. Your life force may feel a little bit, not so energetic. But the best way to use that energy, Aaron, is just be very careful. Like really be mindful every day. Even if you set your watch or set something on the phone, where a couple of times a day, you just come down into yourself and be like, okay, what am I doing today? How's today going? Saturn wants us to pay attention. Saturn slaps us around. We don't pay attention, like the car thing you were mentioning before we went on air. Like
Yep.
that's how Saturn works. So once we become a little more introspective and slow our roll so that we can understand what Saturn's trying to teach us, and a lot of times it'll just be everyday things. That's how it works. Then it's not as harsh. Especially your natal Saturn is in the fourth house. That's a lot of things to do with home, family, the home
Family.
within.
Yeah.
So Saturn wants you to slow down. Saturn wants you to
Yep.
be more aware and just take a deep breath and say, okay, what's going on today? Should I stop for lunch now? Does Saturn want me to just take a few minutes? It wants you to be more aware. That's really what it's showing you. So don't be afraid of that. Like I said, the transit of the nodes are going to be good for you. Chiron, that planet of the wounded healer, is also in Aries and will be in Aries for a while. It is going to be approaching your, let me just see.
Did it go into Cancer on Saturday, or am I wrong?
Chiron, no, Chiron is in Aries.
Oh,
Chiron is in, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have it in Cancer.
yep,
But Chiron is transiting Aries. It's at 19 degrees Aries now. So this next little while, next couple of months, Chiron is going to be going over your Venus and your moon. So that's going to bring up some things, some wounds. You may feel sensitive to some things, but it's also going to bring them into the forefront so that you confront them and heal them. And once you do that, you're done with it. You don't have to do it ever again. And I have a feeling that's probably about relationships because it is your seventh house. So maybe you're meant to kind of be by yourself this time to do that work, because what you're really doing is preparing yourself for the partner that's going to come in.
okay,
Yeah, that's really where that energy is. Chiron is the wounded healer. It brings in the wounds from past life or childhood. You know, what specifically were you forced to grow up quickly? Or was there something shocking that happened in your childhood? And how did you deal with that? And how do you bring that to the relationships now? Are you in relationships as adult Aaron or as the wounded child Aaron? You know, that's
yep.
what that energy is going to be about for you.
That makes a lot of sense too. Because actually, so one thing I don't really air that much, but I do, or well, now I'm mumbling, but recently I started therapy as well, and it sounds crazy, but I was one of those people that I buried those childhood traumas instead
Yeah.
of like not necessarily worse than buried. Like I buried it, poured cement over the top of it, closed the door, never wanted to open it again. But we don't realize that stuff does show up
Yeah,
subconsciously.
and I want to respond to that because we only have a few minutes left in the show, and I want everyone to hear this. Aaron, those doors were closed because you weren't ready, and I can see exactly in your chart as Chiron comes into where it's going to be, passing over your Venus and your Moon. We talked about that fiercely loving energy. This is about you loving yourself that way. The passion that you've given to others, it's time for you to give that to yourself. And in the chart, those are the lessons they're going to be giving you now. So that's why those memories can come out, because they want your love and they want your healing. And that's the beauty of astrology. It's all right here. The timing of our life is in absolute perfection. Here's the universe coming in to give you this energy, and your intuition sent you to therapy to unblock what your soul
Yeah.
knows is coming, all for your good. You're going to emerge from this time period a different person in a relationship now, and a different
I'm
person in the way you communicate, even on the jobs that you do. It's going to open up your life a lot. This next year for you especially is going to be a really, not always a gentle year, but it's going to be a year of amazing transformation for you. So don't fear that energy.
okay.
Be
Yeah,
brave. Yeah.
I would say that's been the last, and like I said, I get things early, right? I feel like I get 6 months or a year early.
Yeah.
This whole last year, that's what that's been.
Yeah.
Like
And
a
that's because
complete
you've got
like
that Chiron is egress against that Aryan energy. And also you've had the South Node on your Pluto, on your Juno, which is that marriage asteroid. Now that's going into Libra, Aries. So that's going to give you the balance. It's going to bring you
balance.
the energy that you need. Yeah.
And
So
then
I
I
hope
know
you enjoyed your reading.
I did, that was amazing. And I of like we're out of time, but also I one thing that I noticed too is like Saturn was retrograde when I think Saturn, Neptune, maybe Uranus, something else was retrograde in
Mm-hmm.
my birth chart. And I
Yes.
think like four of them were retrograde. So what
Yeah, you've got I'm looking now what is retrograde in the chart. Not seeing it. Hold on.
I took
And we
note
can message
too.
each other with more questions because I know you'll probably have more questions.
Saturn, Uranus,
Yeah, you've got
Neptune, and
Saturn,
Pluto.
Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all retrograde in your chart. So retrogrades are planets that slow down in order to give us the energy of being more introspective. So they want you to slow your roll and think about things a little more. Yeah.
I feel like there's several people in my life that would like that too.
Yep. 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 So I'm going to thank you for letting us do this on
Thank you
air.
so
I didn't even
much.
get to comments tonight. I hope that everyone really got something out of this. And I just want you guys to know I'm going to answer some more of Aaron's questions when he messages me later. But if anybody wants to come on the show and get a reading, let me know. We'll pick you from a drawing. And you know where to find me, guys. You can find me on Zenkuda Soul Space on Facebook, Zenkuda Official on Instagram, and on the YouTube channel where replays of this will be, and all my other shows. So Aaron, so many blessings. You have such a wonderful chart, and you're coming into such a beautiful time in your life. I am sending you so much love right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Georgia. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Have
We'll
a good
see you
night.
right here next Monday night at 7. Bye-bye.